Okay, so let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm Sunny. I'm the owner and the founder of Strive Path. And for those who don't know, we empower students and families with personalized academic and college advising. In addition to market insights and community resources, we enable holistic development and better outcomes. In short, we drive happier students, less stressed families, and better admission outcomes. So for today's conversation, we have Will Pelton, who just recently graduated from Cal. Welcome, Will. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
So, the topic of the discussion today is really going to be about Will's journey with a focus on getting recruited to swim at Cal, what it was like to swim at Cal, and I'd say some lessons learned, right? Uh, so maybe to start, so Will, would love to learn a bit more about your background. So maybe we can start with, what was it that you studied at Cal? And then maybe kind of where you're from.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Sunny. I'm honored and it's a privilege to be here. So as Sunny mentioned, my name is Will. I am now a graduate from UC Berkeley. I grew up actually in Baltimore, Maryland, so East Coast at heart, and decided to take the leap and head over to California. And I started school in 2019 and was on the men's swimming and diving team. I swam primarily 100 backstroke, 100 butterfly, 200 backstroke, and occasionally some sprint freestyles, nothing over 200 though. And yeah, my academic career was mainly focused on history with a little mix of some business and some engineering, which brings me to a passion of entrepreneurship and learning how to put my best foot forward as I now embark post college.
That's super exciting. Um, and so I think the first question that we have for you, Will, is share a bit more about, I'd say, your swimming journey before you went to Cal. Like specifically, you grew up in Baltimore, right? Um, what got you into swimming and just how much were you swimming?
Man, so quantity of swimming. Funny you mentioned that. So I'm actually the youngest of four, and my three older siblings were also all swimmers. And my older of the two sisters, her name's Elizabeth, was definitely the fastest in our family. I won't beat around the bush. um, and we actually decided to move from Connecticut, where I was originally born, to Baltimore to swim with North Baltimore Aquatic Club, which is Michael Phelps's club team. And we were there for, I mean, basically 2008, 2007 until this year. And yeah, the type of training at that program, I mean, Michael swam the 400 IM, for example. So a little bit more yardage than other programs per se. But it's a great experience getting to be surrounded by some of the most premier world-class athletes in the world.
Did you meet Michael Phelps?
Yeah.
Really?
Funny enough, at one of the summer meets, and we were just in the warm down pool, and I was like, "Hey, that's you." And at that point, I was just like that little kid running around the pool deck, the little brother of, like I said, my siblings. So
Yeah,
he knew of me at that point. Um,
that's so cool. And then like you just kind of launched into swimming. Um, so what did you enjoy swimming the most?
I would say the community for certain. I think that sport in particular has a really good group of individuals who share a lot of the same values, and we were able to just have a great time. And I was fortunately good at the sport, so I found it really fun to be competitive and keep perfecting the craft. Um, but yeah, I would say that it was a definitely an influential piece to have older siblings and both my parents who were also swimmers. So just kind of felt like that was the right path at the time.
That makes a lot of sense. And then in terms of what you swam, um, what were your favorite events?
Ooh, not until later in high school did I grow to really enjoy butterfly. But I would argue butterfly because there's something about it where you just feel powerful and like, I was probably best actually at what some call the fifth stroke, which is underwater kicks. So it's pretty transferable from backstroke to butterfly and then ultimately freestyle. Um, yeah, backstroke might have been my best according to some, but I always found it distracting looking up at the sky. So
And just taking a look at like some of your time. So I looked you up on SwimCloud, um, just to kind of share some of your just to kind of share some of your accomplishments. And like these are pretty impressive. Now Will is, by the way, a very modest individual. And so you may not get this out of him, but I mean, like Will, you've had some pretty impressive times. Like, look at this. So like 2019 Maryland Swimming Short Course Championship, five-time champion. Do you remember that race? Or do you remember those races?
yes, I definitely do. Very well.
Maryland swimming record in the 100 fly. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just going on for like you were swimming really for since 2016 for 2019. Is that like did you really kind of pick it up in 2016 or is that when you started to compete?
2016. I would say maybe the app wasn't available up until
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
I was competing, but not anywhere near the aspiration of swimming Division One, and then started to take it more seriously. I actually used to play water polo as well, in
Oh,
addition to swimming when I was in later middle school, early high school, but decided to focus on swimming. Um,
yeah.
I had a little more clarity on the outlook and the potential that some of these schools have regarding their.
Yeah. And then even here, you can see the progression too. So actually, they've got data from 2013, but like this is pretty amazing. And for those who, just for those who aren't sure what this is SwimCloud. So SwimCloud, I believe they actually auto log your swim times from different meets. Is that right?
Yeah, these programs are incredible, and there's some details that you just showed me right now that I'm surprised they have access to.
So, so I think one thing is for those who are aspiring swimmers. So one, definitely check out SwimCloud. It'll give you some pretty interesting insight into some of the sometimes that you'll see at different collegiate teams. Um, and it's also just a great way to keep track of your times. What's actually nice about swimming too is it's very time-based, right? And so you may not need coaches to come out and actually see you perform. What's more important really is that they get a sense of your time and your progression in time in various events. Is that fair to say, Will?
Yeah, definitely an interesting balance between some of the folks who, when I was in high school, you hear their names all the time and you assume they're talking to coaches and uh, doing the whole nine, and not really having to put that effort forward. Not okay, excuse me, not put the effort forward, but it's a little bit easier because they're so well known that these
Yeah.
coaches know who those studs are. And I was definitely not one of those studs, but tried to make a name for myself.
So next question is share with me the story that like how did you go about getting recruited at Cal? So you had like all these phenomenal sometimes. You met Michael Phelps, right? He was clearly impressed with your swim times. You also come from a swimming family. How did that translate into swimming at Cal?
Yeah, the recruiting process. I remember when I was an incoming freshman in the year of 2019, and this is right on the threshold of when the rules changed a little bit regarding like how early you can start recruiting. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget I think maybe let's say September 1st of that junior year of high school. So 2017 going into 2018.
Okay.
I was sitting there waiting in my email inbox because at the time the coaches aren't allowed to call you or anything of that sort. They can only email, and you can only exchange emails.
Mhm.
And so I just was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I got a few that were super interesting, and I was head over heels about getting one to begin with. But my sister actually swam at Berkeley, and of the many that I soon received, I never got one from Berkeley. And so I always had this little void of like, I don't know. But I really enjoyed watching her successes and her stories about the experience she had here. And so I decided that, hey, what's the worst that can happen? And decided to write a cold email to the head coach, basically just said who I was, what I liked about Cal, and why you should consider me. Didn't even put in my times. And he responded within like a day. And he was like, hey, yada, yada, yada. And then that ended up spinning into a invitation that was then my junior day. And the first time I got to live firsthand what it may be like to be a student athlete at Cal.
Wait, so quick question there. You said junior day. What's junior day?
So there are traditional recruiting trips, which I believe are in the spring of your senior year.
Yep.
Rules are still the same. And at the time, it was one of the first years where this was allowed, and that was to have juniors come and visit very informally and have there be like a walkthrough of what that experience looks like. And oh man, that was one of those times where it's like first time you go to Disney World, where you're just like head over heels. You're seeing all of these idols. There's Olympians everywhere, and I was so excited. And it was just, I mean, it's California, so I wasn't used to the sunshine either, coming from Baltimore, and it was just tried and true, just a fantastic experience, and really the memory that I'll never forget. Yeah, and the thing that really pushed it over the line, and that final nail, was comparing it to other schools. It really came back to the whole component of, yes, this is a world-class athletic community, but
Yep.
they actually have this unique balance of equal excellence in the classroom. So their athletic and academic balance was unparalleled. And I figured that if something were to go askew, this would be the place for me. And you can look at places, let's say, if you're fortunate to, just to use the example, everyone knows Harvard, right? They have fantastic athletes, but they're known for their academics. So one definitely outweighs the other. And same goes with other schools where they're maybe less renowned in their academics and way more known in their athletics. And so there's always this trade-off. And I found Cal to be that, no pun intended, Goldilocks balance of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really important, right? Is obviously do what you really enjoy doing, but if you can find like the perfect blend of academics and athletics, I mean, that's a really, really hard thing to say no to. And especially I think with your story too, if I'm not mistaken, like, you had a bit of an injury, right, at Cal. And so kind of share a bit more about like, I mean, what it meant swimming at Cal, but then, getting injured, but then transitioning from being an athlete to a pedestrian or a student, if you will.
I like that word, pedestrian, the one a lot. There's some other ones like gorfs, good old regular folks. So you can get creative. But yeah, the risk mitigation, let's call it, of going to Cal beyond just the in the pool excellence did come in handy, because Sonny said I actually got injured at the start of my sophomore year. So I then had this, that was right in the midst of COVID as well. So that combined became a little bit of a, let's just say, headache for me, because the program's looking towards the Olympics. It was during the Olympic year, and I was just sitting and trying to figure out why this was happening, and ended up getting surgery. And while unfortunate, as I mentioned before, the intentionality of coming to the school did play out well, because I felt as if I had the next step available to me, very fortunately again, to have had the opportunity to begin with. But yeah, found a group of people that I really resonate with outside of the pool, and was able to take my academic career to a new level. And I'd even consider it a blessing in disguise, albeit a tough 2 years.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So let me just quickly recap. So, um, you were kind of grew up like in a swimming family, really into swimming. Um, had some phenomenal times. Um, a lot of schools had reached out to you, but not Cal. There are, I think, some stipulations that kind of govern how collegiate programs and coaches like contact potential athletic recruits, right? You obviously kind of like played within those bounds and you contacted the Cal coach, at which point the Cal coach responded to you and then arranged for almost like your junior super day. And so you went spring of junior year, went to go check out the facilities, totally blown away. And you ultimately chose Cal because it provided to you like not just like an amazing, I'd say athletic opportunity, but also phenomenal academics, which you then took full advantage of, um, after, kind of you got injured. Um, that makes a ton of sense. It's like just a really, really, it's a really nice story. Um, would you have done anything differently, do you think? Or what would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? I think the beauty of Berkeley, I suppose, is that um, people here are very supportive.
Yeah,
So um, it's very nice to have that extra push when things are seeming to be a little still or stagnant. And
yeah,
I think really just this is also a trait of mine where I enjoy talking to new people, making new friends, and have definitely made some allies through that process that were invaluable come the injury time. And I would almost say just coming out of that bubble earlier, I think the athletic community is fantastic and some of the most valuable and best experiences and best memories I've had.
yeah,
Um, will keep forever, but there's something about just a there's there's a reason many other people come to this school, and having maybe forged some new friendships in different majors and different areas of campus that otherwise I was maybe nervous about getting into for
yeah,
external reasons, um, which didn't need to happen necessarily. And I slowly but surely found the intrinsic motivation to go and pursue those relationships. And I'm really glad I did. So I would say maybe starting that process earlier. But I'm a believer in things happen for a reason. So I
yeah.
would say it's hard for me to think of something I would do differently. Um, I just definitely see how maybe I could have been more efficient.
It's all good. I mean, I think to your point, what I like a lot is right is everything happens for a reason and kind of we are where we are, right? And I think we should just enjoy kind of where we are. But now if you're a student who is where they are and they are a sophomore or a junior or a freshman in high school, what advice do you have for them?
I would say the biggest one I've observed. Um, I was very fortunate to be surrounded by people who shared a vision like myself, where we want to go and do big things. And maybe hard to see at the time, but um, those are some relationships I still keep up with and keep in contact with to this day.
Yeah.
Um, I would say choose your friends wisely.
Okay.
That one is easier said than done, but really to the tune of just there are certain people who like to go out on the weekends and nothing against it. There's type of people who like to study all weekends and nothing against it. Some people who like to stay in the pool all weekend and nothing against it, right? But it's like,
Yep.
what do you enjoy and what are you motivated by? And I use that paradigm of intrinsic versus extrinsic, and I think it's
Yep.
really important to choose for yourself. Um, and of course, it's yeah, listen to your parents and your mentors, whether they're siblings or upperclassmen or whomever it may be. But
Yep.
I think it's really important to, be honest with yourself and not beat around the bush. It's really up to you to decide. And that's definitely something that not until recently, and I'm now graduated from college, did I become very, let's say closer to confident in saying. But yeah, starting to do that process and practice it and, be true to yourself from a younger age would have definitely helped me. Um,
Yep.
so if you can
Yeah.
start that in a younger age, world's your oyster.
No, I like that a lot, right? I mean, I think you have to surround yourself with people who um, are going to shape you in the way that you want to be shaped. What about, I think there was like some really interesting insight that you shared as well before we recorded, which was, um, to kind of take the initiative, right? If you're going to get recruited, you can't expect it to come to you, right? In your case, you went after it. Can you just share a bit more, but can you just share a bit more there? Like, it doesn't, it's not as effective just to kind of like rest on your laurels and kind of like have them come to you. It's going to take some level of initiative. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. The example of the recruiting and how that went about is a great one. But another one that I experienced in college actually that maybe could give a little more light about,
Mhm.
as a lot of my peers in high school experienced, and that is let's say you want to get onto a varsity football team or something of that sort, but you don't make it. And you think that at that point it's not meant for you, and you start to reshape everything because of that one decision that someone else made, not even in your control. Um, and I would say that when looking for a major, I was set on business, whatever that may mean. And I was really excited to do it. But I realized that, as I've mentioned before about the academics, the upper decile of mathematicians come to this school. So I had a hard time competing with that and even staying afloat, quite frankly. So by not by knowing what I'm not good at, I figured out what I am good at, and that is actually basically creative problem solving and figuring out how I can take these business classes, albeit I'm potentially not suited for that program in particular. That may sound confusing, but I ultimately had flexibility to make relationships with the professors, take the classes I wanted to, and then when I got injured, had then the flexibility to be able to take other areas of study, such as engineering and so on and so
Yep.
forth. So it actually worked out for the better. Um, and yeah, that took a lot of initiative. um, Again, just showing up at office hours when there's no reason to be there and they have no idea who you are, but you have to introduce yourself and show up. So
Yep.
bottom line is, um, yeah, show up. That's the,
Yeah. No,
and
I agree. Right. Half the battle is just showing up.
yeah,
It's awesome. Well, hey, um, so Will, thank you so much for making yourself available for this call it discussion about your recruitment journey and your time at Cal. And for those who would like to know more or want to learn a bit more about us or even contact Will, like reach out to us at contact@mystrivepath.com and we'll go from there. But yeah, thanks again, Will.
thank you guys.